not many museum curators who would look at a building about to be demolished and set their mind on acquiring a 12-ton portion. But that is exactly what happened with the V&A and Robin Hood Gardens, a shining example of brutalist architecture and social housing in East London, which was torn down between 2017 and 2025. You're listening to Tall Stories, a Monocle production brought to you by the team behind The Urbanist. I'm Andrew Tuck. In this episode, Sophie Monaghan-Coombs tells us how the new V&A East Storehouse is bringing the memory of Robin Hood Gardens back to life.
The design of British architects Alison and Peter Smithson for Robin Hood Gardens was realised in 1972. For the next few decades, two long curved blocks of angular beige concrete rose onto the ground to face each other in the East London borough of Tower Hamlets. This was architecture designed for social housing and defined by its wide aerial walkways and long concrete blocks. As it was being demolished, a process that has only just finished, the V&A made the bold decision to acquire part of it. Now, that section hangs in V&A East Storehouse, a new institution which combines its roles as a museum and a working art storage facility. But it's not just the concrete that the V&A wanted to pin down and preserve, but also the stories of those who knew Robin Hood Gardens, those who called it home. While the building was being pulled down, the V&A launched a campaign aimed at young people from the local area, aged between 16 and 24. The storytelling project had the goal of documenting Robin Hood Gardens as more than simply a piece of architecture. Here's three of those young people.
My name is Adrian. I'm currently a student doing a master's degree in the Butler School of Architecture.
My name is Sarah Abby Luthena, and I'm a young person that has lived in East London for almost all of my life, and I'm currently studying A-levels. I'm on my last year.
My name's Christina. I do have a background in architecture. Did BA Architecture at Central St. Martin's. That was a while ago now, maybe like 3-4 years ago. I've somewhat stayed in architecture. I'm more keen on the research, sort of storytelling side of space.
Their question, how should V&A East tell the story of Robin Hood Gardens? The answer they received, well, it's hard to capture that neatly. The young people who have been working on the project were taught about creative social reform. They met residents and tapped into their creativity to share what they'd learned. Films, oral histories and ceramics were just some of their responses.
I think Robin Hood Gardens carry a lot of stories, and these kind of stories is never told, or a lot of people thinking brutalism architecture is quite cold and concrete building, but no one figured out what is happening inside.
Adrian took an imaginative route into his exploration of Robin Hood Gardens and its inhabitants. He's interested in narrative architecture.
I think for me, the colours is kind of a ownership to the building, because when we are talking about brutalism architecture, it's quite raw, it's concrete, and it doesn't have a lot of decoration.
And what colour permeated for him?
I think there's actually quite a lot of red colours. It might be because people love red, but there's actually a period when I'm doing a site visit to the Robin Hood Garden, and at that time it's mostly the Euro Cup, the football competitions. And then at that time there's like England flag, and then putting inside a construction site. And even though there's no one occupying the buildings, there's no one living in it, it's almost demolished. I mean, the workers, they still use colours to represent their personality as a support of the place.
Sarah requires help lifting up her large collage painting to show it off. Its hues are inspired by the warmness she felt from residents telling her their stories, as well as the light reflecting off the walls of Robin Hood Gardens.
I try to capture these residents. There's so many people running, doing activities, jumping around, or just focused on their own tasks, daily tasks throughout the day. And I captured that, but also they're doing this while the building is crumbling and fragments are just falling on top of each other. And this painting captures a really weird state where time doesn't exist, like the past, the present and the future. It's all combined into this really bizarre dimension.
Christina made ceramics and a collaborative cookbook in response to Robin Hood Gardens, tangible objects that came out of hosting a community dinner. For her, the project created new and interesting threads between food and architecture. For Christina, much of the coverage of the demolition of the building hadn't centred the residents. In some cases, she felt it had dehumanised them.
I started thinking about how can we humanise residents? What's ways we can all connect with each other no matter what background we come from. So then I started thinking about storytelling, about mundane rituals in Robin Hood, everyday rituals. And I thought, what's something we can all connect over? And I thought, food. Everyone can connect over food. We all love to eat. And then I started thinking about what sort of food they were eating at Robin Hood, looking through the archive, what residents lived there, what ethnicities, cultures were there. And then I realised it's very colourful, vibrant cultures and lives and food that was being eaten at Robin Hood.
For all of these producers, what is highlighted is the connections they've made with people. It's never really about the space.
I started trying to connect with residents in any situation in East London I was in. I'll try and ask, do you know anyone that lives in Robin Hood? Even like my Uber driver, I asked him and I actually got a recipe from him.
Recipes, ceramics, paintings, stories, meals. The project takes a sideways, expansive view of architecture and what it means to our cities and to us. But what does this project, which goes far beyond the objects on view at V&A East Storehouse, mean for the institution or the future of museums? The V&A's Afia Yaboa is a senior producer for community partnerships and participatory practice.
The world is changing every single day, and museums have to keep up with the pace of change. And the way that we kind of read information, the way we absorb information is constantly iterating. So it's really important that museums remain relevant in terms of really thinking about being forward-thinking, thinking about the future, thinking about now. And I think for many people, gaining understanding that there is something that exists within a museum that relates to their everyday is an easier way to connect than necessarily thinking about hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So on one hand, there's a real opportunity for museums to really connect with different types of audiences. And I think also, again, just going back to my point about how we absorb information, I think there's also something about just the world that we live in and there needing to be polyvocality, that sort of variation of voices and variation of perspectives, and not just assuming that one person knows everything and can therefore present it in this particular narrative. Narratives now need to be broader, they need to be more accessible, and I think that that's the call to action for a museum. And I think when we think about the Storehouse as a working museum, it presents this unique opportunity to really critique, to reflect, to discuss, to discover what collecting is, what an object is, what kind of makes the cut in terms of what should be acquired and the why and for whom, and how that then relates to the people that will kind of observe it and sort of take on interest and also think about what that means for the next generations to come as well.
Tall Stories is a Monocle production from the team behind The Urbanist. This episode was written by Sophie Monaghan-Coombs and produced and edited by David Stevens. You can see exclusive photos of the V&A East Storehouse in the June issue of Monocle magazine. I'm Andrew Tuck. Goodbye, and thank you for listening, City Lovers.